Hello, everyone. Josh Silverman from Constantly Calibrating here at PAX West, doing an interview with Jason Docton, the founder of Anxiety Gaming. Jason, how you doing?
I'm doing good. PAX is intense, very, very intense.
Yeah, it's a different beast from so many other conventions and kind of things. And I mean, from what I've heard, I've only ever personally done PAX West, but Justin here of Behind the Camera has done PAX East, and we've talked about how PAX West is within the PAX is such a different thing. So, just before we get into Anxiety Gaming, day one of PAX, what have you done so far that you've experiences you've had and enjoyed, perhaps?
I finally got to hit the show floor, and it was incredible. I feel like as I'm looking around, I have to constantly calibrate, and but yeah, I want to say Mario Odyssey is still the number one for me right now. I just have to see where this goes.
So we got to go to the GameStop Expo in Vegas last week, and we played Mario Odyssey and played it. Had a lot of fun. There's two separate demos, so both myself and Justin played. A little while later, we got back online, went and played it again, and then I dreamt of it that night. That game is so marvelous. If you're a Mario person, I mean, it's Mario 64, the second coming, pretty much of it. Is how I personally felt. The mechanics felt exactly right. So it's good.
Yeah,
it's good.
Perfect. I actually fall asleep to Mario 64 speed runs most nights. Clint Stevens, next level stuff.
That's amazing. That's pretty awesome. But okay. So enough about that. Tell me about Anxiety Gaming. Just the basic spiels first. Why start it? Well, what it is and why did you start?
Yeah, Anxiety Gaming is all about working within the gaming community, working with the gaming community to help other gamers struggling with anxiety and depression. I started this as a gamer that fought with anxiety for many, many years, and one of the things I realized was, hey, I'm not alone in this. Everybody that I talk to about these issues or try and open up to, it seems like this really intense and scary thing to open up, and then people are like, oh yeah, that's me too. And it's like, oh, there's a lot of us here.
Yeah, it's a crazy thing. I mean, with all the different aspects of being a gamer, there's all the stereotypes that have existed for a long time. Yeah. But stereotypes are still based in something. The whole loner kind of mentality, or the person who who's really socially awkward in the outside areas, the outside world. Right. It's such it is part of who a lot of gamers are. We are people who are stressed out in public situations or stressed out in our life, and trying to fit in a gaming habit, particularly as games get longer and more well-rounded and all these other things. Finding a gaming habit can cause its own anxiety because I should be doing something more important.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many different areas that anxiety tends to reach within gaming, and there's a lot of that idea of there's that stereotype that gamers are alone and they're playing from their basements, and sometimes the reality is that gaming can be a really lonely thing. There's a lot of people that feel alone, and so they turn to gaming as a way to belong and to be a part of a greater community. And it's easier to come and not be judged for so many of the different things that you are already judging yourself for, or you've been judged for in the past. And we take that really friendly, helpful environment. We go from beating bosses together to let's beat these mental health issues together. And I love having that conversation.
So then, what's the focus of your organization? What are you trying and hoping to achieve with it?
Yeah, the dream is that we defeat depression and we defeat anxiety issues, and our main objective every time we go into those conversations is hey, let's get started in therapy. Let's figure out what your game plan is for recovery, and then we take it to that level of providing the direct one-to-one services to make sure that you get the recovery that you need, that you deserve, and you pay whatever you can afford. If you have insurance, great. If you can't at all afford care, we just cover the cost for you, because there shouldn't be a financial barrier between you and happiness and being able to enjoy yourself.
I mean, that's a great thing. So how do you achieve that then? That's a broad that's a specific question. But so how have you worked to achieve that aspect?
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, it's a lot of sacrifice within the organization. I mean, we have hundreds of volunteers from around the world, and everybody just works for free. It's making sure that we're as efficient on our end as possible, But it's also working, in the professional realm, talking with therapists and making sure that we can reduce costs. And fundraising some of these costs, it's turning to the community and saying, hey, there's somebody out there probably on your friends list, somebody you've queued up with, somebody that you've done a raid with that's really struggling, and you could support their recovery. And it's really easy to do. I mean, and you get to have that insight of, I helped somebody within the gaming community beat their depression or beat their anxiety.
That's amazing. I mean, as someone who's suffered through, with, and all around depression and anxiety most of their life, I mean, before I started doing constant calibrating interviews, that's something I was talking about on the podcast. I've grown over the last 5.5 years to a personal person. I will now go up to people at conventions. I will talk to them, do all the things. But as recent as let's say 2 to 3 years ago, I would even have a meeting set up at an event, and I wouldn't no-show it, but I'd come up with some excuse before the meeting because I can't do this. And this was after years of doing podcasting and still even putting myself out there. I'd be too terrified until, I don't even remember specifically, something clicked in my brain, and I just said, screw this. I'm going to be panicky. I think I heard somebody talking about their own depression who did podcasting, and they made a comment it's like, yeah, I'm always depressed and terrified, and I like the person who's done like hundreds of interviews, and I'm always depressed and terrified and scared shitless about this situation, but it's my job and I go do it. And something clicked. I mean, that's obviously not something everyone can do because there's many levels and many layers, but.
Yeah, it's interesting that you mention having previously struggled with that, because that's also what I come from in my personal background is struggling with anxiety and struggling with depression. And funny enough, this is the 1-year anniversary from the first time that I left my home and went to anything at all. I was a shut-in for many years because of my anxiety, and many years, 7 years, I hadn't left home.
Wow.
And I got the opportunity to come to PAX and talk about all of the things that I was doing and how I was, turning my pain into a passion to help other people. And I came out here and I had a panel, and I was just terrified. Just like I am so far away from home, and now I've got to talk to people, and I'm afraid of people. And, it just turned into one of those things of I'm going to be afraid. Yeah. And that's it. Whether I commit to this or don't, I'm going to be afraid. But if I commit to this, at least I can have an impact. I can talk with people. I can engage. I can do something in the world,
Yeah. No, I understand the mentality of things. I, again, kind of suffered quietly with depression and stuff to the point that, my wife's family, even though we've, joked about the depression and anxiety, they have no concept of how, deep I've been in it over the years and stuff like that. Even after the birth of my son a couple of years ago, I sank really deep into it because I was overjoyed to have a child. But at the same time, it's well, where's my career at? Where is how good of a father me? I have some anger management issues, so am I going to treat my kid properly? All those kind of things. And I started going down and down to the point that I was talking to them over dinner, and I made a comment that was. I just got a job, and I was I feel really happy for the first time in my life. And they started tearing into me oh, you weren't happy when you married our daughter? You weren't happy when your son was born? And I was and pardon me, I was in my head, I'm you motherfuckers. That is not how happiness works. That is not how emotional stuff works, which is what led to what we were originally going to do, was we were going to have you on for a show we could do called the Mental Health Breakdown, which is a live stream show, typically more of a discussion-based thing than an interview thing, but we've been trying to branch out because I had a realization during that conversation about how little people, even loved ones of mine, understand depression and anxiety. So it turned into a weekly thing where it's okay, you know what? I'm just going to go on the internet and I want to bare my soul about something, whether that topic's depression, whether it's anxiety, whether it's weight management. It doesn't really matter. Whatever's the issue in my head, or one of our guests says or something. So that's in a similar mentality. I've just tried to personally take my own fear and depression, and take it and be hey, you guys, you're not alone, out there. Yeah. And so I love seeing that you kind of had your own, a defining moment of that, and which led to all this. So.
Yeah, it's beautiful when we're finally able to talk about these issues, what ends up happening, and being able to in any way begin that conversation, or to meet someone like yourself who starts those conversations and engages in those conversations is incredible. That's what we need to be doing at the end of the day.
Well, you need to break down the stigma is what it comes down to, is people just need to come to this acceptance of the fact that everyone's a little mentally ill. I mean, it's really what it boils down to. It's not such a negative, horrible thing. We all have our neurosens stuff. You could see the happiest person in the world. The common question that gets asked when a celebrity, kills himself, commits suicide, is, but they seemed so happy. It's like, I mean, you have no idea what's going on behind the scenes, behind someone's head. So changes need to be made in our perception of mental illness before I think a lot of people can come out of that darkness.
Yeah, and I think on so many levels we have to accept that, depression eats into the things that we would enjoy. Like you mentioned, like your wife's parents bring up, like, weren't you happy when you married our daughter? Or weren't you happy? It's like, yes, but still, like, that's not how depression works.
Yeah.
Like, and that's how it is for some of these celebrities as well. It's like, but they're wealthy, or like they're so and so, and it's just like, but depression doesn't really let you feel that.
No. Yeah, it's everything's you perceive everything in such a different way. Your mindset, and some people it's an environmental thing that triggers it. Other people it's just genetics of who they are, who their family was, and and everything. And then some people get the whammy of everything.
Yeah,
leading into it.
Yeah, so just get pummeled with it, and you're like depressed.
Yeah,
like,
pretty much. So that's awesome. So. Where can people find out more about anxiety gaming? Where can they find you? And especially obviously if they need help, or if they want to help them,
Yeah, the best place to find us is at anxietygaming.com.
Okay.
And at anxietygaming.com, this is a great place where you can learn how to get involved. If, let's say, you've conquered your mental health and you want to give back or sponsor somebody going through those our programs right now, or you can click the help button and you can get help right away. And then, of course, our social media. So Twitter is Anxiety Gaming AG. So AG at the end. Our Facebook is Anxiety Gaming. And we're most active on our Twitter. So people can reach out to us directly whenever they need help, and we'll respond right away.
All right, awesome. Well, thank you very much for the chat. Really appreciate it. As I said, this is a topic that's near and dear to me. So I really, for anyone out there, like there are ways to get help. I don't how do I word this? You're never as alone as you think you are. Yeah. That's kind of the way I look at things, or I try to. I try to look at things at least. But as far as Constant Calibrating goes, you can find us constantcalibrating.com. As I mentioned, we do a mental health show called The Mental Health Breakdown every Friday, twitch.tv/constantcalibrating, 5 p.m. or, most every Friday. Some circumstances do happen every now and again. Otherwise, we bid you good sign-off.